I never thought I'd be standing here, staring at the shimmering blue of the pool, watching the sunlight dance across its surface like little shards of glass. It felt almost surreal. Maybe because it had been so long since I'd done something like this, something just for the joy of it. And maybe because I wasn't alone. "Come on, Laura," and my brother David called out, his voice carrying a mix of excitement and impatience. "You're not backing out, are you?" I laughed softly, shaking my head. "I'm not backing out," I replied, stepping closer to the edge. The water smelled of chlorine and childhood memories, and I could almost hear our younger selves splashing around, carefree and full of life. David grinned, that same mischievous smile he always had, and dove in with an easy grace. The water welcomed him, and he surfaced, running a hand through his damp hair. "Feels amazing," he said, his voice softer now, more reflective. "It's been too long." It had been too long. Not just since we'd been in a pool together, but since we'd really talked beyond the casual pleasantries of adulthood, beyond the quick phone calls and holiday gatherings. I took a deep breath and dipped my toes in, the coolness a sharp contrast to the warm summer air. "You know, you always were the better swimmer," I said, easing into the water. It wrapped around me like a familiar embrace, and I sighed, letting myself float for a moment. "That's because you were always too busy reading to practice," David teased, but there was no sting to his words, only warmth. "Come on, race me. For old time's sake." I rolled my eyes but couldn't suppress the smile forming on my lips. "All right, but don't expect me to go easy on you." The water made everything feel lighter, easier. Each stroke brought back fragments of the past, our childhood summers spent here, racing, laughing, pushing each other just enough to stay competitive but never enough to hurt. David swam ahead of me, his strokes strong and practiced, while I struggled to keep up. "You're still too fast," I called out, panting slightly as I reached the edge. He turned, resting his arms on the ledge, watching me with an unreadable expression. "You did good, though," he said, his voice gentler now. "Better than I remember." I pulled myself up beside him, water dripping from my hair. "Maybe I'm just more determined now," I replied, meeting his gaze. There was something different in his eyes, something deeper. It wasn't just about swimming anymore. It was about us. "You've been quiet lately," he said, and the conversation shifted, moving beneath the surface just like our bodies in the water. "Everything okay?" I hesitated, looking at the ripples forming around us. "Yeah, it's just life, you know. Work, responsibilities. Sometimes I feel like I'm treading water." David nodded slowly, as if he understood. "Yeah, I get that." For a moment, we just sat there, listening to the gentle lapping of the water against the tiles. It felt good to talk, to let some of the weight go, even if only for a little while. "Remember when we used to stay in here until our fingers turned to raisins?" I asked, smiling at the memory. He chuckled. "And Mom would yell at us to get out before we froze?" "Yeah. Good times." I leaned back, letting my head rest against the pool's edge. "I miss those days." "Me too," he said, his voice softer than before. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the pool, I felt something shift between us, an understanding, a renewal of the bond that had always been there but had grown quiet with time. "Hey," David said, nudging my arm. "I know things get tough sometimes, but you don't have to go through it alone. I'm here." His words settled in my chest like a warm weight. "I know," I whispered, and I meant it. It was easy to forget, caught up in the whirlwind of life, but moments like these reminded me of what truly mattered. We floated together in silence, watching the sky change colors, the cool water holding us up. There was no need for more words. The moment was enough. Finally, David broke the silence with a playful splash. "Come on, one more race." I laughed, pushing the water back toward him. "You're on." And as we swam, racing each other toward the deep end, I realized that some things never really change. They just wait, beneath the surface, ready to be rediscovered.